Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hen's Tooth Cafe. It's been a while, and today I'm doing a video on this little puppy here. As we all know, the Japanese have brought us some great effects in the past, starting with the shini and honey, and you had the Goyas, and the Japanese are always coming up with these neat little effects. This is by a company called S3N, or what's it called there? Solid State Supernova, and it's the Super Flutter version 2, v.2. There was a mini flutter or micro flutter, and then there was a super flutter version 1. Both of those have been discontinued. This is the version 2. At present it's only available in Japan, but there are ways to get it. You can use third-party buying services. You can look it up on the internet. I'm not going to go into detail with that. You basically, they'll buy it for you and ship it to you. The Super Flutter V2, what does it do? Basically, in a nutshell, it's kind of like a tape speed up or slow down. Something that was incorporated into the Digitech XP300 series. You had a few patches there where you could, it would record like a second or two sound bite and then speed it up or slow it down. It's got a couple of modes: flutter, which is the red LED, and cutter, which is the yellow LED. And then it also has tap tempo, so you can tap a tempo into it for the flutter or the cutter. It does also a combination of the flutter and the cutter. It's a little bit, how can I say, it's not as in your face, but they're both there. Basically, the flutter is taking the sound bite and repeating it. Now you can adjust the rate, the LFO rate of the repetition. This knob here works as it has two duties, but its first duty is LFO rate, and then this knob here works in two directions. You can either send the pitch up or send the pitch down. So noon is 0. If you go to the upside, basically what you're doing is the more that you increase the upside, the steeper the angle or the rate, the steepness of the of how quickly it's going to go up or how quickly it's going to go down. So if you have it just, let's say, at 11 or 1, the rate is going to be, the steepness of the rate is going to be very slow. If you increase it, it'll go up or down quicker. And the LFO controls the repeats. In Flutter, the faster the repeat, the less repetitions you have. It becomes more seamless, so that note kind of takes off. The switches here, you have this is the up down. So basically, if you play a note and you step on the up down switch, it'll either take it in whatever direction that your up down knob is set at. And this switch, the Japanese are a little funny about that. It's just I tried sending an email to these guys, and I got a very rudimentary English email reply, and I think their English is not that great. They admit it themselves, and so maybe the labeling reflects this a little bit, because here the switch is normal, which should be maybe something like effect, or or some other more more identifiable moniker should have been used. But this one here basically takes the one note and will repeat it at whatever rate the LFO is set at. Cut reminds me, the cutter mode reminds me a lot of the slicer, the Boss SL20 slicer. And then again, and like I said before, then you can go into Flutter or Flutter Cutter or Cutter in tap tempo. So you can set your tap tempo there. Now the interesting thing is that in tap tempo mode, the rate knob becomes divisions. It's split into 4 sections. So you have your 8th notes and 16th notes and 32nd notes, and this becomes divisions. And there is a way to adjust some of the internal settings by pressing the mode button. You hold it, and it's a little finicky. And when you get that triple 3 lights lighting in a row there, now you're in setup mode, and you can have different the flutter. You can have it if it's bright. That means when you can play over the effect. If it's dim, that means that the flutter only can be heard. If you're playing something, you can't be heard. It depends how you want to set it up, but you can. There's a couple of choices for flutter. There's a couple of choices for cutter. The cutter is whether it's a hard attack or soft attack, and the tap tempo you go to each one. And the tap tempo here, you can reverse the polarity depending on how you want your expression pedal to work. So, and it retains that memory. And the nice thing is too is it retains the last mode that you were in when you power it up. So if you were in cutter with tap tempo, when you power it up, it'll stay in cutter tap tempo. So let's hear what it sounds like. Here we go. I'm using a Fostone clipper clone that I built for some dirt. And I have the Super Flutter after it, and it's going into my trusty Ampeg G212. And today I'm using an Ibanez Arondite kind of destroyer looking thingy. I only made them 1 year. So now we're going to put the rate at noon, and I'm going to put the direction in up. And so if I hit the normal switch, and so the normal switch, like I said, just basically takes that note and repeats it at whatever the LFO is set at. So now I'll keep the rate at noon, and I have the direction knob, let's say at 2 o'clock in the up direction. Now I'm going to be working the up-down switch here. And it goes way up there. If I turn it down a little bit closer to noon, you'll hear the ramp will be slower. Now, if we turn the rate of the LFO right up, and if we turn it right down, so you see, the LFO can play. It interacts with the angle of attack. There we go. The angle of attack. I like that. So if we turn the angle of attack right up and the rate right up, you can get a seamless. You get it more seamless. So let's try it rate at noon, and let's go to the downside. As as you can see, I went into the programming, and initially it came to me that in the flutter mode, where in flutter mode you couldn't play over when it was fluttering, but I changed that because I figured you could get some more dramatic stuff going on, like having that ramping down or ramping up in the background while you're playing over it. So it really can lend another dimension to your sound. Cutter mode. I'm not going to go into the flutter cutter because it's basically just a combination of the two together, and it's a little more subtle. It's a real square wave, you know. Whereas the flutter is more like brings your pitch. It's like more of a pitch change, but the cutter is more of a chop, tremolo. And I have it in the down ramp. Yeah, if we go in the up ramp. And what the heck, I'll go into the flutter cutter mode. This is both of them together. Crazy, huh? Only the Japanese could think of something like this. Anyway, it's a really small company. This is the only thing that they make. So I think it's a couple of guys in their garage that, you know, kind of hatched this, you know. And if we go to tap tempo mode, flutter and tap tempo, like I said, you can turn. I turn the rate all the way down because now you're working in 4 different divisions. So let's tap in a tempo here. There we go. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I just messed up. In tap tempo mode, the button, the up-down effect button, is for tap tempo only. And it's just the effect button that works. So you can have the note repetition to the tempo that you tapped in, or you can have the cutter. And there I was turning the rate up so you can hear going through the different the other note divisions. So that's the Super Flutter v.2. Crazy little box. I'm just scratching the surface of it right now, but there's all kinds of neat stuff you can do with it. You can create some pretty dramatic effects. Like if I just have the ramp really slow. Or turn the rate down more. don't know how long they're going to be making this thing for, but I'm damn glad I got one. Thanks for coming to the Hen's Tooth Cafe once again. I hope you all have a happy day, happy week. Be good. If you can't be good, be careful.